Good morning, everybody. Tara Bachland here with the Wifey Wake Up podcast. And I have a great topic for you today. It's marriage without a prenup, navigating love, trust, and partnership. And I know prenuptials are a big deal. And we actually discussed it years ago, 24 years ago. 24 years ago now, since my husband and I were first engaged and soon after married. And it is a big and important topic. So let's discuss it. So yes, 24 years ago, my husband and I were engaged. And I was the one that brought up that maybe we should have a prenuptial agreement. And he very matter-of-factly says, as most guys are pretty matter-of-fact, you don't have anything to protect. And plus, and this is the part that really surprised me, he's like, plus, if we are setting up a prenuptial agreement, if we create a contract like this, we are actually planning to fail. We are planning on getting a divorce. And this floored me for a number of reasons. Because, first of all, I was learning about him. I learned in that moment how committed he was, that he wasn't worried about his stuff, even though he had been married before, that to him, it was more important to start the relationship, start the marriage outright with the right intentions, with the right energy, than to be worried about stuff. And it just really, really pleasantly surprised me. And it really canceled out any arguments that I had, right? Just like, well, what about what I or you create in the future? And I mean, it just overall, it was just like, it was end of discussion, because I really saw how committed he was. And I believe he was right. You know, if you start a marriage out with the intentions, with the thought of the ending, how are you going to end it? You are setting yourself up for failure. However, I'm going to present a few caveats here. What I also really learned about him is that before we met, he was already a professional martial artist for over a decade. He was a neurolinguistic practitioner. He was a professional remote viewer. And so these are things that kind of seem woo-woo. And you know, he had some crystals and some kind of esoteric books, which was very interesting about him. He had a cat, a white cat, and it's like, who is this guy? But what was actually really impressive is that he took all this woo-woo and really brought it down to earth and really made it into foundational principles, made it practical in everyday life and in all those endeavors. And I could see how it came together in our life and in our marriage as well. And that includes taking experience from his previous relationships, learning from it, and sharing that, not all the details, right? But sharing that and helping to set our relationship off on the right path. So that, in a nutshell, is why we didn't make a prenup. Sorry, I'm adjusting my hair. It's like, for all those curly hair, wavy hair people, you know, when it seems like it's coming out of the extruder the wrong way, it's one of those days. And just working with it. So there is a situation that I think it actually could be helpful to at least draft or discuss what would be the points of a prenuptial agreement. And this is kind of a hint, a clue from business. And I've noticed, you know, I love doing business with people who are like, yep, sounds good. You know, maybe agree to some terms in an email and basically is like a handshake deal. You know, I've had a number of situations like that turn out really good. Actually, not one of them has really turned out bad in that sense. It's actually been in situations where we've had contracts that it's gone south. And anyways, just food for thought. What I've since found interesting is just to propose the contract. So even an email, you wouldn't email your future spouse, but these would be points of discussion, right? Even if you say, these are the terms, Let me know what you think. And just kind of a contract light. Whether you do the contract light version or the full-on contract, what I often find is, well, particularly sending the contract, let me back up a step. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's say, pretend you actually write up the prenuptial agreement and send it to or give it to your future spouse. How they react, not just react, I'm assuming they already know that's going to be coming, but how they respond to the terms is really going to tell you a lot about them. And I've certainly learned this in business. And sometimes it's even helpful to present that contract in order to see what kind of person they are. And so, for example, you get the types that will just sign it without any question. You'll get the types that nitpick all the details, and especially the ones that don't matter so much. You'll bring up the person that brings up past mistakes in reference to the contract and is like, this is why I don't want to do this, instead of just asking for a change. And then who's the one that drafts the contract? That can be interesting information. And do they ask or make comments that show that they are not educated about the matter? And all of those are helpful information. Now, whether they're deal breakers for you or not is another matter. For me, for example, if I get a person that is just totally nitpicky about the things that don't matter in a contract. Now, technically, there shouldn't be anything that doesn't really matter in a contract, but if they kind of make up stuff, they want to add in stuff that doesn't really matter, or again, they're asking questions or bringing up topics that don't really relate. It shows that they really don't know about the topic. In a business agreement, that's going to be a red flag for me of who they are, what they're going to be like to deal with in the future. So similarly, you could use this in a prenuptial strategy. However, I don't actually recommend using that strategy, and this is why. It actually is a shit test. And any smart person, reasonably intelligent person, is going to know that they're being shit tested. And they, especially if you're already engaged, they're not going to like it. And it's just going to feel weird, if not just overtly be strange, if you do it under this context, in this context. But what you can do instead is you can discuss like adults, right? You can write down some concerns of yours, how you would handle, just under the pretense of like how you would handle certain situations. And it doesn't even have to be under the idea of divorce, but because you'll come up to in life issues related to money and even just how things will be set up as far as insurance or life insurance. That can be a light way to discuss and discover how you might deal with these things in the future. Also, like when and if you have kids, will she be at home for a while, and how will finances be handled in that way? That will also be a lighter version of understanding how a person is going to address these matters. But if you do have the honest and adult conversation of, how would you handle this situation, then you inevitably, whether you actually present the contract or you're discussing the points of the contract, you will find out what kind of person they are. And again, I don't really actually recommend doing the shit test version where you send them a contract and see how they react, whether they obviously know that you're sending it or not, because I think that really sets the relationship off kilter, even before a proposal of marriage. That can really, a shit test sets things off kilter, right? It's not good vibes for a relationship, but rather have an adult conversation. And if that other person can have an adult conversation, then you are two healthy adults that can be in a relationship together. And then you can talk maturely about these things in the future as well. So while I still and totally agree with my husband, it was a very wise move and really one of faith to move ahead without a prenuptial agreement, without any idea of what kind of resources that he would have in the future that he might want to protect. He said, no, I don't want to start our relationship out with the premise that it's going to end. Even if there's an if right? There still is the premise. You're still considering, you're still putting that energy out there. What would you do if, rather than planning for success? And planning for success is what will we do in similar situations that we will face in marriage, but that we're together? How will we handle finances? How will we handle time with kids? In this instance, being married, like I said, would be when they're very, very little. Are you sacrificing so that, or prioritizing so that the mom can be home, for example? And those conversations are going to set you up for success. So I'd love to hear from you. What has been your experience? What are your thoughts on this matter, men and women? I know this topic can really, I know when I brought it up, it was kind of a matter of feeling security, like security for myself. But then I realized that I actually feel more at ease since he brought up, well, let's plan for success rather than how am I going to protect myself and protect my stuff. And it was just a tremendously wise move, I think, on his part. It really set me at ease and knew that we were moving forward together. So I would love to hear your thoughts. Please comment, like if you just liked the topic, liked the content, and absolutely please share if someone came to mind while you were listening to this and you think that they could benefit, or they might find it interesting. And of course, subscribe. Thank you so much, everybody. I love hearing from you on all the social media platforms, and look forward to seeing you there. Take care. Have a great day.